Well, good morning to you brave souls who came out today. I want to call on Barbara Stites, who's going to speak to us a little bit about one of our other organizations in Baldwinsville, the Beecham Society, and I think probably everyone knows about the Beecham Society, but Barbara has something that she wants to say.
Thank you. I'm Barbara Stites. I'm president of the Beecham Historical Club. Okay, I'll bend down.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. We meet on Tuesdays. We try to do the second Tuesday of the month, but it varies. So our next meeting is November 17th. And we very luckily have the same presenter for the next 4 meetings. Steve McMahon from Baldwinsville has written a few books. They're in the library here, behind the desk down there.
Yeah, at the end of the history section.
Yeah. They're really interesting. We had, this past Tuesday, we had Sue Greenhagen from the Historical Association. She talked about the Oakwood Cemetery. She does a virtual tour, and it's really wonderful. But next Tuesday, our next meeting, November 19th, it's something up on Downer Street, and it talks about the spiritualism that was present in Baldwinsville. So I can just give you, I know nothing, I'm not a native of Baldwinsville, so I know nothing about all this stuff. We have one in January about the Baldwin Home for Indigent Women. In March is the Last Man to Leave Picketville. And in May, which is our annual banquet, which we haven't set up yet, but more information is coming. But he talks about how the carp
Fishing
competition started back in the 1800s, was when they first started bringing these fish in and populated the streams with the fish, the invasive species that the carp are going after. So it sounds pretty interesting. I got a brochure, and they're out in the lobby. They're on the wall in the lobby. So if you'd like to take one, we'd be happy to see you. We have our meetings are at 7 o'clock in the evening at the Village Town Hall. We have light refreshments, and it's always kind of interesting to hear about what's going on or what has happened in Beeville. Okay, thank you.
That's great.
Thank you.
Now, is there anything else to come before this business meeting? Okay, then it's time to introduce our speaker, who has been very patient. He's been this is Officer Martin Knaul, and he's been a police officer with the Village of Baldwinsville Police Department for 27 years. And for the past 12 years, he has been assigned as a school resource officer at Baker High School. He also has received training as a field training officer, evidence technician, accident investigator, bike patrol officer, as well as a school resource officer. He grew up in Liverpool, so he's pretty local, and I think he must have grown in all these capacities. And so I'm very pleased to welcome you, and you are going to talk about our school.
Okay.
Officer Knaul.
Good morning, everybody. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay. Yeah, I don't like to stand behind the podium. I like to move a little bit. So, again, Officer Knaul, Marty Knaul, and when people call me Martin, I feel like I'm in trouble. Again, I've had 27 years with it. Prior to that, I was with the Sheriff's Department. Prior to that, I was 3 years as an MP with the Army. And like mentioned, I went to SU, and I grew up in Liverpool, but now am a Beeville resident. What I was basically asked to come in is talk about the SRO position. what is it we do as SROs, and what is an SRO? So that's a school resource officer. And there's different versions depending on what district you belong to. Our district brings in full-time certified police officers. So we're all active duty on departments. Right now we have 5. We have 2 from the Baldwinsville Police Department and 3 from the county sheriffs. So we have 5 in this district. And from district to district, it changes on what they provide. Because the school resource officer term is kind of general. There are some departments that hire retired guys that then they put them on as part-time at departments and then put them into schools. There's other schools that just hire retired guys who don't have, aren't certified police officers, so they can't act with police powers. So you got a lot of different versions of what's going on out there. I think very fortunately for our district, and I'm biased in that, is that we have full-time officers so we can act as police officers as well as interacting with the kids and trying to make them make better choices. The whole purpose of the school resource officer position is to provide a safe environment for the staff and the students. Is what can we do to help provide a safe environment so we don't have bad results in our district. And there's a lot of different ways we do that. One of the key things is just building a relationship with the kids. You know, because when they look at a police officer, what are they thinking? You know, and then they're going to get me in trouble, or they're going to wreck my fun. So a lot of it is just building that relationship, because we're in full uniform. What I'm wearing here is what I wear in the school. I go with full duty uniform with all the equipment. So that way you can build up the relationship so they're not intimidated or afraid to approach you. We want them to be able to approach, and I'm in there every day, so they start to build a relationship and they feel comfortable coming up to me. And then that works outside too, because now they feel more comfortable approaching police on a normal basis because they've built that relationship while we're there. Great thing about it now is with the expansion in our program, we have 2 officers that cover the elementaries, then there's 1 at Ray, 1 at Durgee, and then me at the high school. So the kids are exposed to police officers right from the get-go, so they build that relationship. So it's just a transition to a different person, but they get comfortable around the uniform and the officers. A lot of the stuff we do for the district is help them provide, safety plans. We're on several different committees. We're on the district safety committee, we're on the mental wellness committee, we're on the admin council committee, and we help provide information that we think will be beneficial. Be beneficial to the school to provide a safer environment. Over the 12 years I've been, we've done a lot of things in the district to enhance the safety of the buildings and for the students, and how things are operated within to lessen any chance of somebody trying to do something bad at the school. But what I always like to do, because I can really talk a lot, but I like to get, is there questions that any of you have about what an SRO is, what we do?
Well, it's just that I think it's wonderful that you do that, and I think it's wonderful for the children to get used to police officers. But it bothers me that the situation in our culture today is such that kids have to be taught or conditioned to be comfortable with police officers.
I think I don't think it's any different when I was growing up. I mean, I never had interaction with police officers when I grew up, so there was an intimidation because I wasn't, it was something I didn't have exposure to. So I don't think it's any different. I think there's...
You get the same respect.
Well, that's where I was going to say. And there's where it might vary a little bit. The respect's different. Obviously, the climate in the nation right now is not very pro-police. And obviously, the students are watching this. So it does create some backlash from that. But I think that's where the benefit of us being in there is. Because then they interact with me or the other officers, and they see us more as people than just a uniform.
You are the law.
True, but most of what we do in there is working with the kids to keep them out. I tell the kids, we have orientations every year with all the different groups, sophomores, juniors, seniors. So they come in and they talk about the code of conduct and everything the school has to do. I speak to them about, my goal every year is not to arrest anybody in the school. That is my goal. My goal is to keep you from making those choices to getting arrested. So that's my goal, is to hopefully give them the tools to avoid getting into that trouble rather than being the one that's, putting the hammer down, so to speak.
The other thing is the drug bet. Now, how do you deal with that?
We deal with it as it comes. I mean, our school typically, we have drug issues, obviously some fights, some criminal mischief, theft. Those are the common things within the district. And we come up with plans to try to make it more difficult for the students to participate in those activities in the school setting. So there's different aspects we do to try to limit, but students are students, young minds always are trying to think of how to get around the system, some are, and so then we have to figure out how to intervene and stop that so we can prevent that from coming in. So.
And you do that by talking with the kids?
I go into classes, I do presentations, I go into the health class, I talk about alcohol use, drug use, particularly because a lot of them are getting up to the driving age, driving while intoxicated, the concern with that. So I'll go into that, I show them, you know, the concerns with that, how we go through the testing and everything if we do stop somebody suspected of it. I go into different classes and give presentations about certain concerns that I can provide some expertise on.
And do you have pretty good acceptance from the kids?
I think overall, because they know me, yeah, but it's, I mean, the difficulty obviously with the teenage mind is they don't think past tomorrow. So you're always fighting that invincibility. You know, they don't think anything bad's going to happen to them. So you're battling, you give information that some kids do, oh, you know, I never thought of that, I didn't realize that, but you're still battling with some of the other kids because they don't think, oh, that won't happen to me, I'll be okay, that's somebody else over here. So it's trying to get that information in, which is sometimes a little more difficult, but I think with the, you know, it's like anything, some kids read into it, some are a little less acceptable to it, so.
We hear so much about vaping. Do you have any thoughts on that subject?
Well, I hate it. It's a huge issue in the school, particularly the high school, the junior high. We've seen a little bit down at Ray, and we've actually had one incident down in an elementary school. So it's a big issue. The problem is it's an electronic device. Everybody thinks it's safe. Lately, I'm sure if anybody's watching the news, a lot of stuff has been coming out about the effects that's having on the lungs of the, I was always looking when I was talking to kids, I said, you know, 10, 20 years, I'm scared of what's going to be your future with the damage it's going to do to your lungs. And now I'm realizing I'm not going to have to wait 10, 20 years. This stuff is happening already. So I'm really concerned with that. So we have, in the health, again, we talk about the dangers of vaping. Our current policy now is if we catch a student vaping, they have to go through it's about a 4-hour computer program talking about the dangers of vaping. So we're trying to educate them to try to get them away from the vaping and break this trend, because it's just, everybody thinks it's the thing to do. So
Is that a law or a regulation against it in school, just like?
That's against the code of conduct. No tobacco, no vaping, any of those devices are not allowed. So
You can take it away from them?
the administrators take that away from them, yes. And then if it's an illegal drug, that's where I come in. But I assist them in dealing with that problem. So, but yeah, if they're caught with that stuff, it's not allowed in school, it's confiscated. And if the parent wants it, it can be turned back over to them, or it's just held and destroyed. So, just depends. I'll go.
Do you find that parents do support vaping?
What's that?
Do you find that parents do support vaping?
Not the majority. Not the majority. There's a handful that vape, and it's just like smoking. Some smoke and don't mind if their kids do. We have some of that, but I think the majority of parents are not in favor of vaping. I find most of the parents, most of the time when we confiscate something, it's only on a small percentage that they actually recover the device. Most of them say, keep it, I don't want them to have it, get rid of it, do whatever you have to do. So fortunately, we do have that on our side. The kids look at it as the thing to do. And you got the groups that unfortunately now have done it so long, are hooked on the nicotine, and now to break that habit is going to be difficult. And you got the occasional users. Those are the ones I'm really hoping we can hit now to get away from it before they get hooked on the nicotine. So, I'm sorry, did you?
Yes. What you're speaking about now is predominantly high school. And back in the 80s, when I did the PTA, we brought in the Better Safe Than Sorry program. I don't know if you remember that back then, yeah. But the police would come, and the children were just so receptive of it. of the program, and they would speak about, you know, danger, stranger danger, and all. Now, it just seems to me if you start at that younger level, not scaring them, but talking to them at that elementary school level, you know. I mean, we did this program over at Van Buren, and I think several of the other schools in the district did that better safe than sorry too. And I think it was Officer Dan used to come in and speak to the children. And like I said, they were very receptive. So do you try to implement this at a very early age, or are you just waiting till they get to the junior high school level too?
That's all being addressed right now. They are looking to, particularly at Ray and Durgee and us, and they're going to include the elementaries of educating them about the dangers of the, you know, the typical dangers we've talked about for years and years and years, and then like vaping and stuff that have come into play recently. So that's all in the process of programming. And then, like we said, with the officers down there, they can supply some of that information too, because they do presentations and stuff like that. So they have the ability to plant that seed too, just like the former DARE program and everything that we used to have. It's all stuff that we've incorporated now more into the curriculum than actually a separate thing. So
You are just starting on that lower level, like to reach out.
yeah, I mean, because up until, I mean, it's really in the last 2 years that vaping has just gone off the charts.
Right, that, but other things too besides the vaping, you know, to really speak to the children. I mean, back in the 80s, the policemen were your friends, and the children would gather. You know, they loved that program so much. And nowadays, I think the police get a bad rap, you know, and the younger children have older siblings and they hear things, you know. So that's why I was curious to see if you were really starting at the lower level, younger ages.
Yeah, and that's where the benefit with having the officers, we have Deputy Kruger and Officer Natoli from ours, where they can build those relationships. So we're, as far as that interaction, we're hoping to break down some of that negativity that's currently going around, and build that relationship so that the kids are comfortable coming and talking to us about issues. And then as things develop, we can come up with a plan on how to address that and hopefully stop it. It's one of the issues we had with the DARE programs, you had it in the elementary, but then there wasn't the follow through. So the kids were impacted here, but then slowly, as they got older, that impact, it's like anything, if it's not repeated, they're going to just put it to the side. So now hopefully we can keep on sending that message right from elementary up to the high school to hopefully dissuade some of these kids from making the choices they do.
Is it still called DARE?
They still have there's a DARE program out there. We don't perform that anymore because we noticed the issues we had with the lack of follow through. So we're trying to now, with implementing the officers and all in the schools, trying to send that message right from the get-go until high school, and then with the health classes and everything, they reinforce that message.
Right.
So
I'm glad that you started that.
yeah.
From a very early age, because you get them in the formative years, you may have a lot better results when you get them.
That's always the hope, and then if you keep on sending the message, hopefully they don't make those choices. And I think it's indicative, if you look at drunk driving. Back when I started my career, you didn't have to work hard to find an intoxicated driver. And fortunately now, it's a lot harder. Why? Because you had groups like SAD, MAD, you had people going into the schools and talking about the dangers of drinking and driving. And the kids were hearing that right from all the way through. So now you see a lot of DDs, you know, they'll go out, but this person's going to be the driver, they're not going to drink. Or you have now Uber, Lyft, all these other options they have. And you don't see, I mean, don't get me wrong, they're still out there. But I think with the younger generation, there's more of an awareness of the dangers of that, and they're less likely to do it. So I have seen a change in that mentality. So that's the thing. I'm hoping that we can do the same with the other concerns that come up. But you know, it's always like you get a portion that do, and then there's always the ones that you're fighting to get back. But they, you know, again, the invincibility and thinking they have a handle on things. I mean, I've had students in the school that I knew were abusing drugs, and I'd be on their case, you know, and I got it under control, I got a handle on it, and then when they get out of school, they just deteriorate, and I've had a couple that have OD'd. So I mean, it's frustrating when you're trying to reach them, but they think they have the handle on it, but then sooner or later it overtakes them, and then they go down a bad road, so.
Thank you.
I have a question about bullying. Do you have a lot of that in the school, and if you do, how do you handle it?
I mean, it's like, it's school, yeah, there's always bullying. The school's obviously very against that, very aggressive in dealing with any bullying issues. My interaction is trying to explain to them where that could lead to, because usually if it's a verbal thing, it can lead to physical. So I try to give them some education about, you know, the ramifications if that behavior continues, and the administrators are disciplining the kids on the bullying behavior. So if it's brought to our attention, we try to address it. So, yes.
We all hear a lot about school shootings. I assume you have a plan, and how secure do you feel that your school is safe from this kind of thing?
It's always a tricky question. I mean, do we have a plan yet? We've done a lot of training with the staff. Deputy Nord and I, because we were the first, we were the SROs, and we changed a lot of the aspects of the safety of the buildings. Made suggestions to the district. We brought Armored One in, which is a private company. Actually, a former officer, Tom Chiz, runs the company. So we brought them because there was aspects of the training that Deputy Nord and I couldn't do on our own. We needed more assistance. So we brought them in to do a mass training for all the staff on how to react to an active shooter situation. We've changed a lot of, it's like anything, as things progress, you change your approach to those situations. So we've trained the staff to be more proactive than just sit in a corner and be quiet. And so we've had a lot of training in that area. We've done a lot to secure the buildings more that I'm not going to go into, but we've done stuff to provide a safer environment, one point of entry. You know, nobody should be coming in from any other entry while the students are in there. And we're still in the process because of some of the designs of the school were well before anybody thought this would be an issue. Like you walk into some of the buildings and there's nobody there to greet you. You're just walking in. So the school's now doing capital improvement projects so that there's always going to be somebody at the entrance. So nobody gets into the building without getting buzzed in. The majority of shootings are student-based. They're usually a student within the school, so that's the difficult part because they're going to be coming into the school. It's just whether or not we've had, in my 12 years, numerous reports of concerns about students making threats towards the school, so we immediately address it and identify whether there is anything viable about the threat. And then the school takes care with the code of conduct with that. So we try to act on any information we get because our goal is to stop it before it reaches that point. But not a perfect world. So we're doing everything we can to minimize the chance of something happening, is the best way to put it. And we're putting it in place to try to keep it from ever happening here. I mean, I hate to put it that way, the fortunate thing is it is very rare when you look at, I mean, it's like a strike of lightning to get hit, but we don't want that strike of lightning here. I don't want anywhere in this community, in the whole Central New York community. So I was just on a committee last year with the district attorney's office and numerous agencies and experts in the field to kind of give an overview for all the school districts to say this is some suggestions on what you can do to help improve your security. So we did that too. So I got to admit, Onondaga County has been very progressive on wanting to not wait for something to happen, but let's see what's going around in the nation and now what can we do to try to minimize the chance of it happening here.
Well, I apologize, I may have missed it along the way, but I have been wondering, how, is there somebody who's looking at every entry where the kids are coming in to see that the kids aren't coming in with knives and whatever?
I mean,
How do you do that? Can you do that? Do you do that?
the difficulty and the key part is in the morning, everybody's coming in at one time. So, I mean, yes, do we have staff that monitor as the kids are coming in? Yes. But can I honestly say without a doubt that somebody couldn't sneak something in? I can't. That's the difficulty of the situation because there's the balance between providing a safe environment and being able to function as a school and teach the kids. Because people always talk about metal detectors. High school alone's got about 1,400 students. We would kill a couple hours just trying to get kids through a metal detector. And the focus is on educate. I mean, that's the balance. It's tough because obviously my focus is security. But I understand that education is the thing that we gotta provide to the students. So you don't want to detract from that to eliminate the chance and I don't want to, but a minimal chance there's going to be something happening. We do everything we can to try to identify that, but we can't impact the education. You got to be careful not to impact their education negatively in doing that.
But do you ever say something like to the kids, if you know somebody has something, or you've seen something in a locker or whatnot, the kids will come to you and tell you?
That's what I said, over 12 years, I've had numerous reports brought to me. And well, sometimes the kids bring it to me, sometimes they'll bring it to their guidance counselor. Sometimes we get it anonymously we got a tip 411 line through the police department. The school department, or the school district also has their own tip line. We get that information, we act on it.
Do you prompt the kids, and
Oh,
you're talking with them, if you see something?
I mean, that's the constant message. When the orientations where I meet with all the students, that's my number one message. That you guys, when I talk to the students, I said, you guys are going to hear anything before any of us. I said, all I'm asking, if you hear something that you think is a threat to you, the school, is a concern that you think the safety of this building, you need to report it to somebody. I don't care if, I tell them, I don't care if they slip a note under the door, they come to me, come to guidance, come to a teacher, go to a staff member, however you want to get it to us, get us the information so we can look into it. And in the past, the students have been good at reporting stuff that was concerning to them. Fortunately, I don't think I wouldn't call whatever we've had as a veiled threat. The person didn't have the means to follow through on the threat, but threats have been made. So.
Mayville is pretty safe territory. But who knows?
I mean, that's the thing. Columbine is very similar to our. It's a suburban district. It's there's a lot of similarities that they just never anticipated as something like that happening. And that's the thing. It only takes one. So as much as we can do to identify anybody that's a concern, and then the thing is and I just went to training recently, where if we identify, now what can we do for that student to change that course? If they're going down, there's so many things that we don't know. Did we intercept something from really going somewhere? Because if you intercept down here and get the student help, then we don't have an issue. But what if that help wasn't brought? What could have happened? So, I mean, there's a lot of things that and it's police work. There's a lot of times you do something that you don't realize what an impact you had because it never reached the end result because we intercepted it here. So that's my focus. I hope we can catch the student that's having some issues at the beginning stages where they had thoughts of this before they get to the planning stages. Because once you get to the planning stages, that's when it gets scary, because then it's just what day do they decide to go. So this is where I hope we intercede in the early plans where they're having these kind of thoughts. So we can get them assistance so that we can address that.
It worries me that somebody will think that's a great idea. I think I'll try that and hear about it.
Well, I mean, and I don't want to blast the press here, PAC-B. But one of the issues I have is in the past we've glorified these. I mean, the press is it's just nonstop, and you see the picture of the person that did the shooting, and it's over and over. And you got people that don't feel like they fit in society, feel like they've been put down and everything like that, and they reach that point that they're like, I'm going to make myself famous. And unfortunately, I think that is a component to why we see some of what we're seeing now, is that you have people that are normally would have just gone through life and just like, yeah, no, but now, this could be my 15 seconds of fame, So I do think that is part. I think there's a lot of other components to that, but I think that is part of it, because they see how much notoriety it gives somebody, and they make a poor choice. Yes.
How do you feel about having armed teachers? If they're trained?
That would be the key. I mean, so many things that was thrown around like that. Would I want teachers just coming in armed? No. They would have to be going through training like we do. Qualifying at least, I mean, we qualify 4 times a year. The state requires at least once every year for police officers. But I'd want them to go through training, and obviously we go through a psych, all that kind of stuff. I'd want them to go through a psychological. I wouldn't want somebody just coming into the school saying, well, I got a permit so I can carry a gun. I would want a lot of parameters. And again, and this is where I have discussions with teachers and stuff, and there's a lot that, no way, I'd never do it. And you got something like, I don't know, I could go for that. it's good in the sense that if you do have that threat, you have a response. The concern I have though is teachers are there to teach. So part of me is like, it's sad that we even have to think of approaching that they would have to carry in school instead of just teaching and doing their job. So. Hi.
I have a question. I've been looking at you and I'm wondering, what are all those things you have on your belt?
It's my workout kit.
I know it's your work outfit, and of course, I'm looking at the yellow one, but do you have a gun?
Yes.
You do have a gun?
Yes. I'm left-handed, so I'm on the wrong side.
So your gun is there.
So we carry Glocks, 9mm Glocks, extra rounds for the Glock, taser.
Oh, that's what that
That's the
is.
taser. And then
Okay.
I also have pepper spray, an extendable baton,
You do.
handcuffs, and then the rest of rubber gloves and stuff like that. I mean,
There you go.
it's a,
Well, it's quite a display.
yeah. You know,
You know, as I consider this audience, I imagine that all of you are feeling that when you were in school, none of this was going on. And if someone like you had appeared in my high school, I don't know what we would have done. We probably would have asked you to leave. I mean, there just has not been this need, and it's just sad.
yeah. I'm kind of, I understand on that aspect where we're doing this because of what's happened.
Right.
That's sad. On the same token, because what are police officers for? The Village Police Department, we're here to protect the community.
Right.
All right, and so we're assigned to patrol and go out and protect the community as best we can. And I always thought, what's more important than our kids? But yet, in the past, we didn't dedicate somebody to the school. So on that aspect, I think it's a good thing because regardless of the unfortunate with the mass shootings, I still think it's a great thing to have that protection for our kids, regardless of whatever the situation might be. And again, I think it's just great with building that relationship with the students. So that part, I like the program. The reason why most have gone to it, yeah,
Essentially, Bonesville started long ago with Ann. That was like 30, 40 years ago?
Oh, it was before my time, so yeah, it was, she was, I think it was, because I came in 92, I think it was late 80s. Then there wasn't anything for a while, then Officer Angles, when we got it was a grant that started the program up again. So we've been doing it now, let me see, I think it's been just over 20 years that we've had somebody at the school. It started with one officer, expanded to two, and then we had two village officers for a while, and then it went to one village and one county, and now, like I said, we've expanded to the 5. So.
I do thank you. I do thank
Okay.
you, and we thank you.
Oh.
And I don't know whether there's enough in there for all
I'll
of
just-
your officers or not.
I'll just hook it on my belt.
You just hook it on your
Yeah.
belt. Right,
Added another piece of equipment.
right. And seriously, let's stay around and chat a little bit and have another cup of coffee and another.
Can I just say one thing, because my husband did work at the high school with Marty. He is doing a fantastic job. A part of this is getting people to talk, and as you can see today, I think everyone has contributed something. So even older people, he
Great.
gets people to talk and say something, see something, say something.
Yeah.
Very
But
good.
he's
Thank
doing
you
an
for that.
outstanding job.
Thank you.
for
Thank
that.
you. Nice.